by Ranjit Reedy. It's his first time presenting, so let's take that into the consideration.
Thank you. So let me begin the presentation. In this presentation, even though it's about Agile, I won't be talking about Scrum processes or the backlogs or the meetings that we typically schedule. It's more about how to do with people and how we solve the problems when working with global teams. So a little bit of overview. I'm from the DevTools team. I'm the Agile coach. So we are about 140 people. It's a very young team. We started about, I think, about a year, probably. But the actual team started assembling about 8 months. There are about 12 teams, and we are about 6 to 8 months into Agile because the teams keep building. And we are spread out about 10 countries. And even in each team, there are about people from about 5 countries or 6 countries. So it's a truly global team. And there's no one team which is actually co-located in one country. So that is the background of our team. So I found it's really hard, painful, and takes a lot of time, which might be surprising because being Red Hat and being the leader in open source, collaboration is nothing new for us. We have been doing that for many years. But when Agile is introduced, why is it so hard? It's not only about Agile, but even I think in our particular team, we are building services which probably will need continuous integration and continuous deployment. For that, we need teams which are able to work on a very tight timeline. And the way we built the team also comes into consideration. Because we kind of split up teams. We have some old Red Hatters come into our team. We have hired a lot of new people who are new to open source, new to Agile. So there's people coming with different backgrounds, different mindsets, and we have to work collaboratively at the same time, and everybody needs to be on the same page to be productive. So these are some of the challenges that I've listed, which we found and we tried to tackle. Class system, time zone challenges, cultural differences, social distance, and crosstalk. I'll go into details in the next slides, but why do things come in play? I think as part of being human, there are a lot of side effects that we kind of encounter, and I'm going to talk about them and see how we can go about solving for them. So when typically Agile is introduced, people focus on the processes, tools, and practices. That solves only like probably 1/10 or 1/20th of the problem. The actual value lies when we are able to change the mindset, the values, and the principles. This is a very nebulous area, and people, that's why they choose to ignore it because it's difficult, but it's the most valuable area for us to work in. So in our team, we kind of tried a lot of experiments. We split teams, we merged teams, we tried asynchronous meetings, synchronous meetings. We kind of, probably every month we try new things, and whatever works in one team, we try to cross-pollinate into other teams. So that's how we learned a few things, and I'll share what we learned in our team. The class system. So basically this can manifest in many ways. It could be racial, ethnic, geographic, regional, product stickiness, dev versus QE. When I say product stickiness, this is basically when we merge two teams who have been working on a product for 2-3 years, and we're trying to build a new system and try to integrate it. There's always a lot of resistance when we try to bring in their architecture into question or their design into question. They always feel that they are right, and why are we changing this? So it's always us versus the new team. But to be collaborative, we all need to be on the same page. The same with dev and QE. The way we solved is, instead of reporting structures, now they're part of the Scrum team, the QE. So we work as one team. That's how we solve that one. The other things, we'll go into it slowly. So the one way to overcome power balance is to correct the power imbalance. So what I mean by this is, because we are geographically distributed, if all the leads, all the managers, everybody is sitting in Westford and you are only hiring developers in India, there's great power imbalance. People will feel that they don't have a voice. And if you are able to bring in some leadership in the other teams also, then the power imbalance would be corrected, and all those biases will kind of slowly be eliminated. And of course, this is sometimes it feels silly when some of the comments are made, but I think when we take into consideration from the guy or the girl from the receiving end, I think it looks very different. So I think that basically having a zero tolerance policy really helps in this area. This is self-explanatory, so I won't spend much time on this one. Now, when we are merging teams and when sitting in different geographic areas with different cultures, different backgrounds, different mindsets, it's very difficult for them to work as one team. So I think if you keep reiterating that we are one team, and we also, if we bring in the competitive spirit, that automatically I've seen it helps a lot. For example, in our space, we've seen GitHub, GitLab coming up with similar products. We've seen IBM coming up with similar products. So this urgency that we have and this sense of competition that we need to meet the timelines kind of really helps for everybody to come together and work as one team. Coming to the time zone challenges, this has been really challenging for us because we are spread up about 10 countries, and at least each team has 5 or 6 countries. So the way we have solved this problem is we try to see what is the overlap, because when we take into consideration like Westford, which is East Coast US, India and Bruno, for example, we found there's only a 3-hour overlap, which is kind of suitable for everybody. Because when it's early, about 8 o'clock in US Eastern, it's probably around 6:30 in India. And the later we push it, if we don't want the team to kind of burn the midnight oil, and if we want them to leave at 9:30 or 10 in the night, this is the only 3 hours we have. And the other thing we did is we fixed whatever Scrum meetings that we needed to do for only 2 days in a week. So it's Tuesdays and Wednesdays are what we fixed, and 3 hours, that's it. And that's every week. So what this does is it frees up a lot of time for development, because one of the biggest complaints when we talk about Agile or Scrum is everybody complains of more meetings. So the way we solved it is we kind of fixed it to 3 hours in 2 days per week, and that kind of repeats every week. So by having a predetermined fixed schedule, everybody knows that this is the best opportunity for them to collaborate or meet, so that they don't have to have ad hoc meetings or interrupt others during the day when they're actually being productive and their best coding time or whatever. So we let them as much free time as possible. And this seems to be working, and we've kind of unilaterally made this as a structure for all our teams. And if they need, they're free to set up their own meetings on the team level, but on an overall program level, this is what we follow. Now, I think this is an article that Jim mentioned, our CEO mentioned that, we are free to talk in a way because the Red Hat culture is, basically the quote is, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I can't believe that you're such a moron. I think it works when you're in the same team, in the same co-location. But when you're working across different countries, if I call you a moron when the first or second time, if I haven't even met you face to face, it comes out across very differently. And especially in the written format, in the texting or in the emails, it seems very disruptive and kind of insulting. So I think unless you build that familiarity with the person or the team, I think we should tone down on the language. I know we want to bring our hearts to Red Hat and kind of have an open, energetic discussion, but as much as possible, until you bond with the team and very close to them, I think it's better to refrain from using language or cussing, which kind of goes, this is something a little different, maybe a little controversial in Red Hat, but I think it helps, at least in the initial stages. Coming to cultural differences, when we have these blue jeans meetings or video conferences, it's very difficult to see if the person is agreeing with you or disagreeing with you. And the best thing is to take away assumptions from it. So silence is not equal to consent, and nodding is not equal to agreement. A lot of people make fun of Indians because we, especially when yes or no, we have to say yes and no. So it's very confusing for people. So the best way to avoid this, maybe incorporate things like dot voting, or get a spreadsheet and let them say, yes or nay, yay or nay. That way, it's best to take away any ambiguity if the team is on board or not. Now, conquering social distance. Unless we feel close to the people that we work with, we really wouldn't go the extra distance, and we really wouldn't have empathy with them. And the best way we have done is we have a lot of face-to-face meetings, and we also invest a lot of unstructured time in this face-to-face meetings. So we go out as a team, we have activities other than the typical meetings that we have. Because small talk is powerful, that's where we actually get to know people. For example, if you're a parent, you love talking about kids, and we are all more alike than we are different. At the first impressions, we always notice the differences. Whether if you're short, you notice the other person is tall, or if you're but after we talk, you realize how similar you are. So if you're a parent, you talk about kids, or if you're married, you can talk about how evil your spouse is. These are things that basically you bond over. So, and we also, it's best that you have this activities, stories, experiences, and photographs. These all help in getting a shared memories as a team. And a lot of times we have people coming over to India, spend a few weeks, just not for the meetings, but they stay there, they get to know the people. And I think that's been really helping, because a lot of time when you have these strong arguments, you necessarily see the other person as someone autocratic or not willing to entertain someone's ideas. But when you spend so much time with them, you also realize that's because they care so much about the product or the team that they're really passionate about it. So having that kind of interaction is really important. Now, crosstalk. Coming from so many different countries, we definitely hear a lot of heavy accents, and we are dealing with such complex ideas because we are building cutting-edge stuff, and less fluent English speakers. All this makes it very difficult for us to communicate, and especially when we are doing it over a video conference or email or chat, and especially the voice part. I've been as a coach, I kind of attend a lot of meetings, and I see a lot of people are very frustrated, and they kind of shut down people, not because of their ideas, because they're not able to follow what the other person is saying. And I think the best way, there are a couple of ways to handle it. I think most of the things are kind of also talked about very publicly in like public speaking, like actively use whiteboards, or slowing down the speaking space, rephrasing the content, and always seek confirmation that what we talked about. These are a couple of things that would really help. And because this is a real problem, and I think once we kind of start putting in, kind of make an active effort, it really helps for the team to communicate better. And this is something that we recently introduced, our new performance review process. So what we have done is now we have rapid feedback cycles. Instead of yearly reviews, we are doing it in every 2 sprints. What that does is whenever you kind of give evaluation for the team on every 2 sprints, they're motivated and they're able to change their behavior. So this is also, I think, a very pleasant change that we have observed, and I think we'll soon be seeing a lot of change in the team once we see the rapid feedback loops kicking in. That's all I had to offer. Any questions? Sure.
What is the way by seeking
So this goes back to saying that, not taking silence for an answer, saying that they're on board. So that way, you basically, do a dot voting or something, so the people who have signed up for, they're on board or not. So.
Thank you. I think you mentioned you're doing scrums Tuesdays and Wednesdays?
No, we have a 3-week scrum cycle, but most of our...
The scrum call?
Yes.
And why did you decide like 2 days that are together and not spaced?
So, basically something that been experimented with. So Mondays, we didn't want to have anything, and Fridays, most of the people are out. So we thought, and Thursdays is something that we wanted to give people for their own development. So Monday, Tuesday worked best, because the way we also structure our Scrum is it ends on a Tuesday, it starts on Wednesday. So all the retrospectives and everything happen on Tuesday, and planning meetings happen on Wednesday. So that kind of helps us to be seamless.
So can you say that Scrum works for your teams?
It's working for most of our teams. We are still improving, and we've also given a lot of. We have not enforced strictly how the teams implement the scrums. We've given a structure that people are free to kind of tweak. So especially teams which are working in upstream, they have a challenge where they can't depend on their own team, right? They're working on someone else to merge the PRs. So they have a little more liberty as to how they would like to work in that framework.
And can you just imagine how many meetings one team have per month week, for example?
So these are the typical meetings that we have, are the planning meeting, the retrospective. So I think if you're looking for number of hours per week, it's probably comes down to, in a 3-week sprint cycle, 4.5 hours is what we have seen. That's what we have allocated for these meetings, Scrum-related meetings.
All engineers have just 2 meetings per week, almost all engineers. Leads have 1 more meeting or 2 more.
Yeah, leads have a little more, because they also have to attend the Scrum of Scrums, where we all collaborate, as the 12 teams collaborate together, because there's always interdependency between different teams.
What other complementary forms of communication you're using with the team? Do they usually talk by email to synchronize, or IRC?
Yeah, we have shifting to Mattermost right now, but we have used chat services as one of the means, HipChat or Slack, and sometimes we've also tried the stand-ups on those things instead of actually meeting, because sometimes it makes it very difficult for all the people in different time zones to come together. And Blue Jeans definitely is one of the most of the meetings that happen, planning meetings, everything, we use Blue Jeans for that. Sorry.
I love everything you're saying. I've experienced something very similar working teams across IBM. They're all over the world. Whenever we collaborate, we have some of the same challenges. We haven't been able to ever implement Scrum across geographic boundaries, though. And I'm curious whether you think that has gone well, or you've just been able to sort of power through a crazy challenge. One of the things, the time shift becomes a blocker to effective stand-ups. Essentially, like some people have stand-ups right before they're having dinner, and other people are having them, before their coffee at the same time. It just seems to fall flat.
Yes.
Essentially, we just say, well, let's just have asynchronous stand-ups. Or I'm curious how you
So we did that. We gave full freedom to the teams to choose how they wanted to do it. But what the teams themselves realized is, some of the teams came back saying, this is not working. Because when you have an asynchronous stand-up, what people have said might not, the person might be gone. He gives a status and gone, and you might not be able to follow up with him. So they have actually gone back to face-to-face meetings, even though that means maybe 1 or 2 people might not be able to join because it's probably 5 a.m. for them. So it's kind of a balance that they're doing. And I think 2 or 3 teams have come back to face-to-face after trying the asynchronous, because it doesn't seem to be working as well as face-to-face.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've seen.
So how do you deal with, like, if you have these people who are quite silent and they rather like to not instead of saying, how do you encourage them to participate in dialogue, for example, in a retrospective?
At least at Red Hat, I haven't seen too much of the silent type because I think the people we bring in are really passionate about what they believe in. And even, especially in India, where people tend to be a little more silent, what I've seen is they're really outspoken. And they also, of course, the people who are young, like you bring in like interns, they have to develop that culture. But once they see their peers doing that, and I think our leaders also encourage that behavior a lot. Like for example, me, they have asked me to come and speak here. I'm an introvert as well, but this is kind of helping me to speak up as well. So I think it goes back to the leadership to encourage the teams and ask them to speak out.
Can you clarify how do you handle face-to-face meetings where they are not producing too much overhead over the week? Because they are, I understand they are distinct from the Scrum meetings. So they produce.
So face-to-face, as in like physical face-to-face meetings, or?
I don't really understand what you do by number of meetings. Like it could be physical face-to-face, it could be meetings, for instance.
Okay.
I don't know how do you handle this in general.
Okay, so the typical meetings that we have face-to-face, when I say are the ones that I'm saying where we actually physically people meet, so that way you get to know each other. And we have quarterly planning meetings that happen, wherein everybody, for example, after this DevConf, we are meeting 3 days in the Bruno office, where all the leads from all the countries fly over, and we basically kind of plan together. So that's one kind of face-to-face that we do. And the other one is, of course, typically over Blue Jeans for the weekly meetings that we have to handle. Any other questions?
What is something you see often and think it's wrong and you are a little tired to see again and again? Something like this?
Oh, yeah. I think this is problem probably across Red Hat. I think some of the old ways we worked in Red Hat, I think there's a lot of resistance to shift to the new way of doing things, because I think it's because it worked so well for them. I think change is always hard, and if you've been successful doing things the other way, you always tend to be more resistant because you know that something works. But the problem with the old way of doing things in the open source world, we are collaborative, but I think you typically always, the team that you have working collaboratively already have a common purpose. So it's much more easier for you to, for example, like you're working on a kernel, you interact with people who already are interested in working on a kernel. And but in our case, when we are building totally new products, we are hiring people from different backgrounds and mindsets, and that means we also need to carry them with us. So it's not enough to have all the information in your head. You need to put it down somewhere and distribute it so that everybody comes on the same page. I think that's one challenge that I'm seeing from especially the old Red Hatters. One last question.
You mentioned earlier power imbalance as being one of the challenges. I'm curious how much of a challenge was it?
Balance. So he's able to speak out whenever there's something wrong or when someone's voice is not being heard. And I think that's been a very important thing that we did to correct those power imbalances.
So you're trying to get a lead in every location?
At least where the majority of the team is, right? So depends how many people are there. Of course, with remote and all that, it's not possible. But at least wherever there are a lot of people focused,